think you'll probably see that Ralph actually looks quite good in the dress. But I think today he has been slightly upstaged by his now wife Liz.
Yeah.
So a little bit of background. I think I've known Ralph coming on for almost 30 years now. Oh, sorry, it was quite scary in itself. I think I met Ralph probably in about 1986 in a pub which I couldn't actually find a photo of on the internet, called the Midland Hotel in Oslo Road, which is now knocked down. And I think we're probably seeing a band called Whiskey and the Devil, I think, at the time, which might have met in the Midland Hotel. Oh, the Angel, I'm sorry, the Angel, yeah. Ralph obviously came from Cranfield, and when he started to venture into Bedford, he was seen as a bit of a new kid on the block, really. He was his best friend at the time was a guy called Luke, and they were seen like a bit of the odd couple. So a lot of the Bedford regulars, like myself, thought, who are these two guys? With Ralph being 6'4", and Luke was actually about 4'6". So between the two of them, it looked a little bit strange. Here's how they spent most of their time. As you can see, Luke is on the left, Ralph is in the middle, and John Ross is to the right. So you can see they spent most of their time working out in Bedford. And this picture shows actually the outside of the Bedford Health and Fitness Centre, which is no longer there, after a good session. We've had a good session, now they're just relaxing after a good workout. So again, I was a little bit, when I first met Ralph on this particular evening, I was a little bit wary of him, being outside. I didn't know him very well. But as soon as he turned round, the leather jacket he was wearing, I realised that we would be best friends for the rest of our days. Because Ralph's very first leather jacket had a massive Twisted Sister logo on the back. I don't know if there is anyone knows Twisted Sister here. I saw the back of his jacket. And this was a band Twisted Sister. And I was quite relieved because I've actually realised there was somebody in the world that liked bad music as much as I did. So I realised again that we've been best friends for a long, long time. And a little known fact to Ralph is that the guitar player with Twisted Sister, a guy called JJ French, which is quite a rock and roll name in itself, I've known for many, many years now. And I contacted JJ and told him about Ralph getting married. And he very kindly sent me he said that the UK's largest Twisted Sister fan could not get away with getting married without giving something from Twisted Sister. So he sent you a signed photograph. JJ's best wishes, and thank you very much for doing that.
Oh my goodness! That'll be the end of it.
So bands. So we used to obviously see a lot of bands together. We both sort of obviously a very good musical interest, I might add, and we used to go see a lot of bands locally, and we played in some bands locally. In fact, we still do, to be honest. But when one of Ralph's first bands was called Axis.
Oh my God!
And we have another former member, I think. Michael's in it for a period of time. Yeah, we have again Luke on the right, Darryl, Keith, and Ralph with a Marillion t-shirt on in the middle.
I'm the girl at the front.
So, Axis played in many gigs around Bedford. And their most popular song that they used to do was a song called Air Raid. And actually, most people thought that was quite appropriate, because as soon as they played it, they all ran for cover. Especially people on the laugh. Yeah. I still play in a band with Ralph, even today. And we've played in several bands in the 30 years we've known each other. And it's obviously been, again, it's a privilege to play with the guy. I think musically we tend to gel quite well. We have the old argument, we do pretty well together. I think we actually try and outdo the Rolling Stones with the old rockers. Actually trying to be the oldest rock and roll band in the world. But, there we go. So, at this particular time in Ralph's life, he was very hard for money. I think probably you were on the dole. Do you think you were on the dole at that time?
I was on the dole for about 20 years, yeah.
Sorry, excuse me a second. about 20 seconds, and he was trying to subsidise his income. And obviously playing in the band subsidises his income a little bit. You know, he used to get like 4 or 5 quid a night probably from the gigs he used to play. But a little known fact that Ralph was actually quite heavily involved with medical trials. At the time, I don't really remember the news, there was a big thing about a human ear which had been grown from the back of a house. And Ralph, the medical trial that Ralph was involved with actually was reversed to that, so it was growing animal tissue onto a human. And in this case, growing a whole dog. So this was actually called Project Soggy Socks, which was the name of the dog at the time. I think it was it Lucy that made the dog? What was the
Soggy Socks, yeah.
Soggy Socks was the nickname.
Zoe, but
Yeah,
Zoe, that's it.
just so it's skin.
She was soggy socks, yeah.
Yeah, Soggy Socks. Yeah, very good.
It's all true.
So yeah, at Bedford, I'm trying to wrap things up quite quickly. So in Bedford, most weekends, being outside from Cranfield, I did find that most weekends Ralph used to stay in my house because he'd rather get the bus home to Cranfield, he'd miss the bus, blah blah blah. So he'd usually end up staying on my floor or wherever it went. So we've moved quite a lot recently in the last few years, and we've got a bit of a clear out. I found quite a few items that belong to Ralph. So over the years, he's left with me in some form or another. So when I used to share a house with a guy called Floyd, who some of you might know,
Yeah.
we used to, Ralph and I used to have a very keen interest in wine, beers and spirits from around the world. We quite regularly meet and discuss the pros and cons of certain spirits and certain wines, etc. So I did actually find an old Grolsch bottle that Ralph had left on the living room floor of Floyd's house at the time. So I'd just like to give that back to him. It's been a little bit out of date, but
Thank you very much. No,
I did.
it's a fine vintage.
I did put my finger around it, so there's not going to blood on it.
Thanks very much. Very kind.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. So then I moved to a place in Castle Road in Bedford. And again, we used to, we both had quite a keen interest in sci-fi, especially Star Wars. So we used to actually have quite a lot of sci-fi figures, Star Wars figures, etc. And we used to play with them, and say, how are you? Wookiees and stuff together, it's great. And Ralph had a particular interest, and his favourite was what's called the snow beast out of Empire Strikes Back. So this is a picture of the snow beast. It's probably called the Wumper. So, and I actually found the toy that Ralph used to play with, the snow beast. So here was the toy. And Ralph used to play with this figure so much in my bedroom that it gave him a massive blister.
Hello, old friend. Remember that? Anymore.
So the next place we moved to was a house in George Street, which was actually owned by Mr. Rimmer over here. Dr. Rimmer. Doctor Rimmer. No, Dr. Rimmer. And I shared the house with him at the time. Again, Ralph used to play with him. And quite often on a Friday or a Saturday evening, John, Ralph and I used to quite a good interest in snail racing. So I don't know if you've ever done snail racing, but it's a really good thing to do. And we used to do snail racing in John's kitchen, but we never really understood what the rules were. So I've actually managed to find a copy of the pack, which is a snail racing kit. It explains all the rules about how to do snail racing. Just in case you ever want to try snail racing again. But you know, part of snail racing is you have to try certain breeds, certain breeds of snail to see which one's the best. And we actually worked out that Ralph's favourite was the Cranfield Chode breed. Also in the house in George Street, so this is the last one, we used to have a film club where we discussed various genres of movies. Again, mostly on Friday and Saturday evenings, funny enough, about, you know, whether it's a French film or an English film. So, and again, Ralph's favourite film turned out to be a film called Bikini Coal. I don't know if any of you know it. Yeah, cool. Ralph knows it. Ralph knows it. And I've got a picture here which I'm going to show, which actually really just shows how much Ralph enjoyed this movie. But if there's anybody who had heart issues, perhaps you turn away now. Thank you. What I have here is the actual copy that was held over this man's modesty. So you can have that back.
It looks weird.
Leave that picture up. So just moving on at pace, we had two stag do's for Ralph, both very enjoyable. One was in Brighton for the weekend, and one was in Bedford a couple of weeks ago. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So when we went to Brighton on Saturday, it was an absolutely...
Is that you?
There's no amount of breathing in, mate.
So all of these pictures of photos you can actually see around the hall this evening, and some look better than others, obviously, in message, but we won't say who it's from. So on Saturday we went paddleboarding, and you see it all bright and sunshine, which is fantastic. And again, Ralph spent most of the day on his knees, I might add, on the paddleboard, and spent most of the weekend on his knees, to be honest. So Ralph can be seen here, actually in the middle, I think. You can't actually see his board at all. I think he's just been eaten by a shark, but he's again on his knees. So great time having by all. So that was the day. And in the evening, we went out on the town, dressed for the night, I think you'll admit. And again, perhaps one of the thank yous that hasn't happened yet is to say to Lucy's colleague, work colleague,
Alice. Sister Alice, and that top table over there will know. Can I just have a bit of Sister Alice, we have a bit of a shout out for her costume.
So the dress that Ralph was wearing was loaned to Ralph by Sister Alice. I think probably the underwear and some of the other things were loaned to by Sister Alice. And obviously since then she'd actually probably burnt it, I would think. It's not great to have her. Well, I do have to say, on a sincere note, a big thank you to Mr. Matthew Coxley, the other best man, for arranging pretty much the whole weekend. And he did a hand job.
And one day we'll pay you back.
We will pay him.
So one thing that we did find on the Sunday morning that we did discover while we were in Brighton, it's quite an important thing really, is that we found a very important discovery that actually rocked the art world, literally worldwide. The subject, does anyone know the sculpture by Rodin, the thinker? Do we know this one? And for over 100 years, the actual subject, the model, and the incentive of doing this particular statue has been unknown. But on the Sunday morning, we discovered it. Relatives of Rodin currently have this picture and are modelling a second statue known as the Stinker. Yeah, I was just trying, so I've got a couple more slides to go. So I was trying to think of how to portray the secrets of a successful marriage. So I've been married 12 years, and very, very happy 12 years, fantastic. And that's what I've got to think about. is very similar to being in a relationship and being in a marriage with somebody. There are many points very similar, so I just thought, try to put a couple of things down. So communication, always talk openly to each other. Band members, wife or life. Sorry, excuse me.
Get the man a drink.
Take the rough with the smooth. Be prepared to practice loads and don't always expect the performance to be brilliant. That's very accurate. Certainly possibly this evening. Listen to each other and take on board what people say. Always very important. Can you see that? Let your personality shine. Don't pretend to be something or someone that you're not. Commitment. Don't let each other down. And finally, probably the most important, is you've got to have a love of tea and ginger nuts. But then I thought about it. Actually, you get these right, and you always be in harmony. I think this is total. Thinking about it, actually thinking, well, if marriage really was like being in the band with Ralph, I think probably Lucy would have chucked him out ages ago and got Carrot in. Which is quite. In fact, let's go back to Irving. Oh, no, down the road from you. Yeah. It could be. There we go. Last slide, last bit of paper. Thank you very much. It's just literally just to. I think it's a lovely photo of the two, and I think probably all agree. I think it's, what did you say this, Michael? I think. Lovely picture. And I do have to, on sincere note, I say, it's getting on for 30 years, which I've known Ralph, and it really has been a pleasure growing up with the old boy, and I think we've ups and downs, we've done everything together, and it's been, it's amazing that it is nearly 30 years, but it's been fantastic. And more recently, obviously, Lucy, again, it's a pleasure and a real honour. The haircuts changed over the years. I was going to try and do a morphing picture of how the haircuts have changed, but I didn't get around to it. But I think, the haircuts changed, but the important thing is the smile and the laughter doesn't. And I think that's very up to both of you. The common message from we tried to speak to a few people before the wedding happened, just to try and get a few people's views on you two guys. And the important thing really was that everyone said was never change. And I think everyone agreed that the thing that you have is very, very special together. Your personalities are very, very special together, and everyone in this room and further afield, please don't change that. We all love it to bits. So thank you very much. Two things to go. And so finally, everyone we spoke to, so many people wanted to put their thoughts down and tell you guys how much they love you and respect you. But we couldn't, obviously, certain people couldn't say that in person. So what we've done is we've managed to get some very, very close friends and relatives together, and we've prepared a book for you both, which has photos, comments, poems from various, hopefully important people in your life. And this book will be available throughout the evening, and there are 5-6 pages at the back that hopefully people will sign as well with their extra comments of the book. And I think that would be a lovely thing to keep and cherish over.
That's brilliant, David.
While you're standing, I'll ask you to charge your glasses, stand up if you can, and give a massive toast to the bride and groom. Bride and groom! Hooray! 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 Thank you all!
Luckily some of them are in code that not everybody got, so that was good. Lucy's going to say a few words.
Only about 3, and that's all it's going to be. I'm sorry about the invites. Exactly. It was just 4 words, but the invites were sent out, and I did send them, but we were first class staff. And everybody that's meant to be in this room did have personalised invites, were exactly the same as the jars. And of course, I'm surprised we've actually got any guests on a Wednesday, Ralph. I painstakingly sat there and I wrote them all by hand, and they were lovely. And on every table is the example of the card that I sent to everybody, and even the best men and my dad and bloody everybody never got invite, which is really shockingly bad. But I'm so glad you've all turned up. I'm really moved, and I've had the best day of my life. And thank you all for coming.
Before Lucy starts dancing, we're probably looking to clear the room now, so if everyone kind of wants to move out to the bar area, we're going to change things around and then guys
I
will
think
come back
everyone's
into
really
the
relieved, actually.